being heard. Moving on, solid waste, water, and sewage. Beverly, do you have anything?
No, sir.
Sorry? I do. Oh, I'm sorry, Mario, please rise.
The municipal authority met yesterday, on Monday. Monday, we worked on our budget.
I'm being told that you're supposed to be quiet. Sorry?
We have a written report, is that correct?
I can't answer that.
Meeting
I don't
minutes
know
is
one.
what I received from the water.
Can't hear you.
I'm sorry, the meeting minutes is what I received from the water authority.
New agenda. I'm new at this game tonight, so.
We hear from the board member, or?
Jeff, I mean,
I guess one of us can say, yes, I'd like to make a motion that we go hear from a board member.
does he need a motion, Jeff, or?
Who made, I'm
You
sorry.
You don't need to do that.
What do I have to do to let them know?
Chewy.
We just have to have a consensus of the majority to allow him to speak. It's not required a motion.
On a specific topic, of course. And that topic would be Mario what?
I want to report on our meeting Monday night.
The wastewater authority?
Wastewater authority, yes, the MACL meeting.
Does anyone have objections to Mario rising to speak about the water authorities?
I don't have an objection about Mario speaking. I would like to point out that we had intentionally changed the procedure for
Yeah.
public reporting. And with regard to a public report such as the water authority, we said that we would set the minutes to 3 minutes. And if we had questions after reading the minutes, we would then ask the officials available, we would ask them to come to the podium and speak. So our desire is to read the report, and ask questions and have a conversation if there's
This
need.
meeting? Okay, that's what I'm hearing, Mario. Beverly, do you have that minute?
I do not know the witness. I usually just make the announcement that water authority minutes are in the office, if you would like.
Jeff, what do we do now? If we don't have the
It's,
minute?
listen, it's up to council what you want to do. I mean, whether you want to hear from them or not, we've got the minutes available, then the minutes are available.
New to me, so I begged everyone's help.
Well, we don't have the minutes. We have the gentleman here to give us a report.
Let them speak.
Yeah. Speech,
Well,
speech.
I would, as a minimum, I would say, and I'll look for comments from other council members, that this is a learning experience we're going through, because this is a new procedure. I would ask that next month we provide the minutes for that, if there are issues like you feel need to be addressed to council, if you would indicate in minutes that the authority board member would like to speak to council about some of those issues, you do that. But with the whole purpose of this new work is to make our meetings more efficient and quite frankly shorter. So, I think we can accomplish the same thing by reading the report in advance.
So you're being asked then by next month, I think if I hear the council's suggestion to make your announcement this evening, next meeting, have a prepared one that everybody would have, she could read. And then if there's questions, if I understand Bill's suggestion correctly, then you would rise to answer those questions. Is that what I'm understanding?
I do want to do that.
So we're asking him to proceed, gentlemen, ladies and
For
gentlemen.
this evening.
Mario, I guess you have the floor.
Okay, well, in regards to the recent discussion, I believe that Resolution 11 covers public speaking, not speaking for the report from a pending body of this organization. I am here to talk specifically about the activities of the MACL, nothing more, nothing less. Okay, so the MACL met on Monday night. Amongst the topics we discussed was our budget. We are allocating, it is not approved yet, but we plan to review the budget one last time. It looks like we're going to put about $100,000 into sewer improvements. Okay, so we're hoping next year in our budget to spend right around $100,000 on improving the underground lines and associated systems along with that, so that we can reduce I&I and reduce that waste expenditure. We also, and the chief, don't hit me. There was a rumor spread that I don't know what it was, there was no facts, but anyway, we hear that fire departments are going to be coming to Conneaut Lake to fill up their trucks, to fill up pools. I don't know. We passed a new rule that says if you're a fire department and you come to Conneaut Lake and it's a non-fire related, that means If you're cleaning your truck, we don't care. That means if you're recharging after a fire, if you're doing a fire, this doesn't cover that. It only covers the situation where fire departments come here and charge their trucks with water and dispense them in pools. We've instituted a $25 charge for that.
That's
Okay?
per load, sir, or
Yeah, per load,
per truck?
per truck. I can't imagine that we are ever going to see that
I
happen.
don't think anybody's going to put it more.
I don't think so either, Chief.
There was a truck today, I got calls, that they were testing their truck, and the UL test on it. They used very little water. They had that.
None of that is even part of this, and I believe you're exempt, the Funny Lake Fire Department is exempt from, anyways, I think it's ridiculous. Well, anyways, so we did that. There's also a matter that I think I'm supposed to talk to you about in executive session. So since you're going into executive session, I will come there and ask the attorney, the county solicitor, whether I'm supposed to talk about it in executive session or not. If not, I'll immediately leave. But I would like permission to discuss something in executive session, possibly if it's what I'm supposed to do. I'm not
But
sure.
that has nothing to do with water and sewer.
It is exactly to do with water and sewage.
I
And
misunderstood.
nothing more, nothing less.
I heard you say it, I was just being clear.
Yes, and I don't need to stay for anything else, I just need to address council for a few minutes about something we decided that we want to explore. And I don't know whether it's appropriate or not, but I'll ask you that question in the executive session, and then if you say no, I'll offer it out.
Executive session.
Thank you.
Definitely don't have an executive session open for tonight. I mean, that's, the executive commission is,
No, it's fine, I'm okay with it.
that's not what it's.
Okay. I guess we do that by draft or letter again. Any questions from Mario? Excuse me.
I do have one question, as long as we have board member covered. As we're finishing up the project on Water Street, there are still paving to be done on North First Street, and there will be 3 additional risers required for the water valves that are there. In the past, you have purchased those and provided those to us, and we've installed those. The contractor, either today or yesterday, talked to me tomorrow, was informed that they have to go out and purchase these before they start their paving next week. I thought, I came to your board meeting, and I thought the agreement was that you initially asked the project to reimburse the authority for those covers, but the final agreement was, given the great amount of assistance that the contractors have provided to the authority regarding all the utilities and fire and speed, and also the offer of a couple of additional valves that you can have, if you wish, that the authority will inform Bob that you will provide those risers and pay for them to provide those to be installed in the street.
What was the question again?
Are you going to pay for that?
Our grant money is not going to pay for the risers. And so we've already discussed this at your last board meeting, the board meeting that I attended. And your board agreed that you would not charge the project for the risers to cover your valves on the street. Okay, you provided something on the order of a dozen of those. The cost, I think it was $500 for the whole lot of them. There's now a requirement for 3 more, which Bob Morrow is aware of. But Bob Morrow was informing the contractor that your authority is not going to pay for those.
We discussed it with our engineer, and he said that there was no contractual obligation to provide these. There was no agreement to provide these.
And that's what he said when I was at your board meeting, but your board took his comments.
I can take it back.
And then made the decision to go ahead and pay for the riser.
I can.
As far as I'm concerned, you made the decision to pay for them. The only issue right now is there are 3 more than the original quantity that you purchased. And Bob seems to be under the impression that because they weren't not purchased, that we have to purchase the original. And so,
At the meeting, Bob was instructed to advise the contractor that we don't know of any contractual obligation to provide them and to provide us a written request for what they want. That's the action of the board, that's all I know.
I'm talking about the board meeting that I attended, when I asked.
I'd have to review the minutes of that meeting to see what happened there. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'll call Laura tomorrow and I'll see if you're going to.
That would be available to,
I'm
that
sorry?
would be available to the project manager then, that information.
The meeting minutes? They're part of the public record, and if he doesn't have them, I can see to it that our secretary gets them. I'm sure she would, all we'd have to do is call and send them over.
Well, he's obviously asking for an answer if they could be reimbursed, and I guess your organization must give that
I
information.
can only tell you what we discussed and what we agreed to decide.
I can be more definite than that, Mayor. We're not going to buy it. So if you want to install it, you better buy it.
There you go.
That was the agreement.
Well, again, that needs to, I understand from what you just said, you weren't aware of that, so you need to research that, find out.
The discussion that we took place, and it should be in your minutes, is that we have provided in excess of $8,000 man hours for work related to finding your utilities, which you were not able to locate yourself, and spending contractor time digging up the beach and very carefully searching out your underground utilities, which we spent many hours doing. And your board agreed that it was a fair exchange to not seek reimbursement from the authority for that work, and you would not seek reimbursement for us for something on a petty amount of $500 per parts. And now that there are 3 or 4 more people, this number is 3. I don't think the cost is going to be more than $125. And so all I'm saying is, I think we should go out and get them so we can install it.
Are there any questions for me?
I don't have anything, as long as you can get back to them with an answer.
I certainly will report the discussion here to the board members.
Are you coming here, I thought your purpose of coming here was to coordinate with Borough Council for authority issues. Are you saying that, are you saying you're not going to take this back to your authority for action?
I think I just said the exact opposite. I will take it back to my board and report the comments made by Borough Council. I don't know what in my statement made you think I came here to coordinate. I simply stood to give a report about the activities of the board meeting. I don't have the authority to make any of these decisions unilaterally. I have to take them back to the board. I simply stood as a courtesy to council to report on the actions that we had on Monday night. That's it.
But the answer can be found.
I would assume so, yes.
I assume
There,
so, too.
just let me emphasize, there is a sense of urgency since the street will be paved next week.
I will convey the sense of urgency to the other board members, and should they elect, I imagine we could have a special meeting or whatever. We'll do it the most expedient way we can. I will take your concerns and comments back to our board. Once again,
I guess you can have a special meeting if you want, but the issue is already discussed and resolved, and Bob seems to have a different understanding.
does anybody have any further questions for me?
Well, I mean, my only question is basically a comment. If Bob is unaware of the decision that was made, I guess your board needs to direct him as to your findings, so he and you guys are on the same page. So depending on what your decision was, Bob could be accurate in saying they will or will not make that payment or that. Well, first of all, let me regress. Do you have risers in stock that you know of, or would they have?
I do not know the current inventory
Okay,
of.
okay. I assume you did not, but Bob, of course, would. If you don't have them, to make Bill's point, you're not going to get any time for the payment if you had to order them unless they're readily available that I'm not aware of. But, I mean, I guess they could find them locally, I guess, I don't know. But council's request to you, Mario, would be to get Bill's information and get it back to him as quickly as possible so that we'll be accurate with your decisions, your board's decisions.
Once again, I don't know how there was any ambiguity on the issue.
I don't believe there
We
is.
had advised Bob to have the contractor submit in writing what they're requesting. That's what the board did.
Right.
I will, once again, take back your comments to our board for action, and I will send an email tonight to the board members emphasizing the urgency. That's all I have the power to do unilaterally while I'm giving this
Mario,
report.
you just said something that you said your board had made a decision to request a contractor to provide you a written request for these parts.
Yes, yes,
What meeting was that decision?
Monday.
So you are aware of this issue, and in that conversation, you decided that the previous agreement did not come into play with regard to the last 3 risers. The first dozen or so was okay for you to provide those, but not the last 3.
I did not decide anything. I am reporting the actions of our board as a group and what we advised the board employee to do. And I am telling you that I will take your concerns and questions back to our board, and I believe that they'll act on them one way or the other. I don't know what they'll do. I can't promise that. I'm one member, folks. I don't know, you know, I want to keep whipping me, I'll stand here. I'm cool with it.
I'm not sure you understand what I'm saying. There shouldn't be a question to take back because the decision was already made. Now it's being reneged on. That's the whole point.
I
Is
sense-
it being reneged on or isn't it?
I'm clear on that point.
Then you should be able to answer.
I
Is
did
it
answer.
being reneged on or isn't it?
Well, I don't recall a promise made for future parts or pieces for anything. Okay? I'd have to review our meeting minutes. That's the answer to that question. I can't tell you whether it's being reneged on or not. I don't recall a promise for any future or parts or pieces. I don't recall it. Okay? I will look into it. I will take your request and the strenuous nature that you have presented it to me back to our board and encourage them to act.
Thank you.
Okay, well, Mario, in a matter of time, I've been asked and now answered that you will do so. And obviously, anything you do to get an answer as quickly as possible is what I think I hear him asking for. So, again, you're only a vote of one, so you can't speak for your board. But give them that answer that the board has decided and report that to the project manager, and then we'll know. Because obviously we don't know where it's council. But if you get that information back to him, then that will answer his question. He'll know yes or he'll understand no. But you'll have to be the one at this time.
I do not have it.
Oh, I misunderstood. Oh, okay. I misread that then. It says report available in the borough office. If we don't have one, we won't be able to. Well, we won't be able to. We're waiting for one. Okay, and that's absolutely. Now we're moving. Streets. Jim, I think you're up.
As everyone knows, we did Township yesterday. It was to go on with that joint seal coat bid that we took in with the other townships. That was done, they were done about 7 o'clock last night. I think they did a very good job. I actually changed the original scope of what I did. It actually double sealed some roads and took away some of the single seal on some of the roads. Mainly due to some of the construction areas. We'll probably get those areas next year. Nextly, we had a call out, a semi-truck would come through First Street and take down the tether line to one of the lights. We actually looked, and the telephone poles that are holding up our lights at First Street are starting to fall over. No, not bow, they're falling over, and I don't know if it was because of the recent construction, but the one right next to McCabe's, we need to have replaced because it's a windstream pole, it's holding up our lights. There's no way to attach to anything for an anchor unless we could attach it to McCabe's.
Maybe if
building.
it came down, one string would get
Well,
off there.
Well, here's the problem, it's the windstream pole and we put our light on it, so they're gonna blame us.
Well, Bill, is that a question that
No, I don't agree with what you just said. Windstream has responsibility for those poles, and all of the utilities use their poles. So, you know, they're not, if they come here and do something with the pole, it's going to be a charge for it, of course.
Right, well, I think what we could do is, I actually have 2 poles that Chuck Larson gave us years ago. We would actually have to take up the sidewalk and pour a foundation to reset it.
these are the wooden poles?
No, these are
the metal poles that we say.
aluminum poles.
Okay.
It doesn't make sense to put another wood telephone pole up.
Yeah. You cut those up anyways.
What's that?
You cut them up anyways.
Well, no.
No, I understand.
None of that, there's no way to attach anywhere other
Which-
than north and
Which one
south.
is worse?
Which one is worse?
Yeah, which one is
The
coming?
one right in front of McCabe's.
Okay.
The overhead line is actually below the PennDOT minimum for a tether line.
And there's no way to,
No.
Mike, what
There-
happens?
There's no way to, you can't attach it to their brick building. It'll pull the brick right off the base of the building, even if you could get them to let us do that.
And Jim, what you should explain to them is when we tighten the bottom and the top tethers for those, we have some tendency to pull them in and they actually sink more. We had that problem at second and we've had that problem at third, and it's happened a lot over the last 40 years.
No, I was thinking of driving a pole into the ground behind it.
What's concrete now, so much.
There's only 5 feet between the pole and the building. There's no way to do that.
So you're suggesting excavation with a sonotube and a mount? Is that what
Form of
you're asking?
foundation, yeah.
Bill, I'm going to have to jump in here. I don't know, have you jump in, I should say. I don't know if, what would be required for the proper permits and specifications to do that.
Well, I think it makes sense to include that requirement with the other Lucian work that's due to come here. So, Jim, let's get together and give me some specifics that I can pass along. It's not, it doesn't sound like it's going to be a high cost item.
Well,
It's a high cost item, I will have to pass it for
right, well, it will be, we're probably gonna have to pay for remove windscreen stuff. We're probably gonna have to pay Chuck Larson to move everything onto the new pole.
But that's why I'm hoping Bill can communicate with Windstream because of the present project. Maybe there's something that they're willing or able to do that won't be quite as expensive for us. That's all I'm thinking. Bill, does that make any sense? Or?
Yeah, I said, we'll talk about the requirements. When I'm talking Winstream, we'll pass on the
I know working with Windstream, I've actually asked them to remove a wire off of that pole 4 years ago and it's still on there.
They're very non-responsive. That's why we have a percentage of trying to help them.
Yeah. Last month, we advertised a bid for the work out here at Garden Lane. We only received one bid from Sharon Bathing. We had talked about a threshold amount that council would like to spend out of liquid fuels money, not out of the general fund. So I'm gonna open it now and find out what,
Jim, was our bid process while you're doing that, did that include the undergreens?
yes. It included drains along the side, excavating, taking out the bad stuff, putting in new material, putting in gray asphalt, and putting in or not under drain, but a drain on the side of the.
That's correct. We were going to run that down to the exposed manhole, is that correct? Catch basin, I'm sorry. And make sure you give us the link of that. I've forgotten. Keeping us in suspense, Jim?
I'm trying to get this, there's 9 pages we have to go through.
It's always the last page. Always the last page.
I think it looks to be, the total of general work was $23,321.
So $24,000, I would ask Beverly, Beverly, we would not have a problem at $23,000 or $24,000 in regards to the
Well,
liquid fuel.
Absolutely not.
Actually, no, it's more than that.
Oh, sure.
Grand total of option A in general work is, this might be a typo, maybe you add 4390 onto that 23,000, and then the 12,691 onto the, this is my first time seeing it.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
But at worst case scenario, it's $36,000. Worst case scenario, with the better being 28,000, which is, one of them is under the threshold we talked about, and one is a couple thousand over the threshold. That's the general work. Well, no, I think it's one for option A, one for option B. I think you have to add one of these, this one is better.
say those figures again? I'm sorry. There's two options? Is that what we
There's
have?
two options, there's the different PennDOT recommended we could do it two ways, a steeper excavation and putting bigger stone in, and choked into with smaller stones, and then putting, asphalt on top of that, or going, not putting the bigger stone in, not excavating as much, and then putting stone in, and then putting asphalt in. Basically had to go by PennDOT guidelines, because we're using liquid fuels that come from PennDOT. So we basically had to use their kind of design for they call it PennDOT project.
Question for Jim. I know we talked about, Jim and I had discussed the two options earlier, a couple of months ago. I'm not convinced that we would absolutely have to have a larger stone, but only because of the weight and the traffic in that location. But I'm going to have to listen to someone else if it's required to have a larger stone. We handle, basically the garbage truck will be the heaviest on that.
Correct.
And I'll listen to suggestions and comments as to what the appropriate.
These are two options from PennDOT.
Yes, correct. We did it as two options.
Okay, so the first option is 24,
No, 28,000,
28,000, okay. And the second option is
37.
37,000.
What do you think, Mike?
Well, I think if we can afford it, we should go with option 2, because we don't ever want to bother with this road again.
Well, I'll not debate that. I wouldn't debate that. We are being
If you're
told.
gonna let garbage trucks go down,
We are being told by the secretary that there's actually not liquid fuels to handle that amount. So if that's council's pleasure, I would be happy to entertain a motion to accept that bid.
I make
Jeff,
that.
we're okay with just one bid, is that permissible?
Yes, I actually talked to PennDOT, we only need, since we advertise it, if we only get one bid, and we can accept only one bid.
Yeah, I mean, it was properly advertised, we just
Yeah.
got one bid, so that's fine. I would say make the motion subject to the solicitor's final approval, because I want to see if the bid bond things are appropriate. Of course.
I just didn't want to get into a situation where PennDOT, as they have, backed out of that agreement or that requirement, so we were looking for that kind of money. But as long as it's approved by them, I'm 100%.
So is this option 2 or option B?
Option A is the lesser amount of excavation. Option B is one is 9 inches of excavation, the other one is 21 inches.
So the motion is to approve option B for the exact sum of,
I have 36,012. $36,000.
$36,012,
Yes. I'm sorry, 10 cents.
10 cents.
Okay, so, I make that motion,
Subsequent to the solicitor's
Subject to.
subject to.
Is the motion understood? We have a motion on the floor. Second, please.
I'll second.
Elliott seconded. Roll call.
Richard
Yes.
Alaba. Thank you. Chewy.
Yes.
Monahan. Yes. Eldridge.
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Rex.
Yes.
Motion carried. Anything else on the streets, Jim?
Nope, that's it.
Did they, I forgot to ask, did they have a time period for that work? I mean, did they say yes or no to a particular? I guess I don't need to know that tonight, but
Yeah.
obviously for the use of the renters and the representative's office, if it's going to be tore up, we need to make sure we're communicating those times and days. So that they're not, I mean, let's hope it's not on a meeting night or something such as that.
Work will be completed on or before August 13th.
And sounds like about meeting day. We'd have to check. Well, keep us abreast of that, Jim. Make sure that that is accurate and
In other words,
communication.
by August 13th,
Right.
which is
Okay.
that Monday.
But it could happen before, correct? I mean, that's important.
Correct.
on other streets. Is that it? Employees relations, Beverly, anything under that? You have no report. We're moving on to old business. Jeff, I'm going to throw you under the bus at this time. Old business, we have to discuss last month's vote under the old business, and then consider a new vote to remove or retain parking on Water Street. So we'll explain to council what we need to do to correct the wrong that we had done last month by action of the courts.
Well, I don't know that it was wrong. I think that vote, because of Councilman Harris's situation, that vote is now void. So if you desire to deal with that particular issue as far as the parking on Water Street at this point, that would take a new motion with respect to that. So that's really what you're dealing with.
My question here is, do we need to do anything officially to make last month's vote null and void, or is that automatic?
No, I think we're just going to note for the record that the solicitor has advised council that vote is void.
Yes.
Because of the situation we described. At this point, there is in place ordinance number 138, which regulates parking in the borough, okay? So there is no restriction regulating parking on the south side of Water Street at this point. So really, I think what we got is two phases. This one is whether or not you're going to deal with a motion to regulate or restrict parking on Water Street, other than what's already in ordinance number 138. And then secondly, if you decide to do something with that, then you should direct the solicitor to prepare the appropriate ordinance or amendment to restrict parking.
Okay, understood. So the motion that you would recommend then would be to...
I'm not recommending any
You're not?
motion. I'm just saying,
Make sure you put that in the minutes. I'll take it. Thank you. Understood.
let's be clear on that. I just, no.
No, I understand. Thank you.
So-
I just want to be accurate.
We're just taking a motion from council as to the direction they want.
I mean, is there further discussion? Does there need to be? I mean, we've heard a lot of voices this evening. Bill,
Does we need for further discussion? I have a question for Jeff. I've looked at that old ordinance from 1980. It is obviously obsolete in many areas. And I'm assuming it would be possible to tonight vote on the same motion that was voted on in June that's now in question. And also agree to review the remaining part of the ordinance to update it at a future time.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I would agree that the parking ordinance, well, I think it was, 1980?
Yeah.
It does need some updating, obviously, and I think the police department would be very appreciative if we did that.
I think we'll.
Well, do I understand that we're not going to settle this tonight?
I hope so. We're attempting to make a decision one way or another this evening. Is there other discussion by council, or shall I? I'm sorry.
Actually, I would like to talk about the discussion we had last month, which was, people who weren't here wouldn't know, it was quite a lengthy discussion. And as we have learned, and as you have all heard during the construction project that we have, the construction project is a living, breathing animal. There have been many changes by necessity. It's one thing to look at a two-dimensional drawing and try to visualize what it means, but a lot of people don't have that ability to envision that in three dimensions. Now that we're seeing things being built, we're looking at it and going, oh, is that what we really wanted? Now, we have, contrary to what I've heard a lot of people say, we've had a lot of changes. And I'll list a few as examples. The handicap ramp, for example, the one going into Tony's restaurant, was built, was designed in a different configuration than it's actually built. The building owner there was concerned about the bringing in and out heavy restaurant equipment. The railing, the original railing design would not allow it to be removed for that. So, and also there was a step that came down heading to the east, which ended up putting people very close to the rent coming out of the college. On paper, it had the minimum requirements. In the real world, looking at that, it seems like a problem. So we agreed to changes on that. We agreed to, the owner's building, property owner's request, we agreed to change the design of railings, so he's going to get a removable railing. Key point, the handicap ramp is something that was in the scope of these contracts that we have, and is a legitimate expenditure of funds. The change regarding the railings, railings were a legitimate expense given the type of funds we're using because the scope included handicap ramp. Another example, we looked at the handicap ramp going into the Bear Fest and Lakeside Suites. And it was a similar type of situation. Once they actually mapped it out on the ground before actually building it, there were concerns that if it was built as designed and with the handicap ramp going into the street, it would be very tight, might not even meet the minimum requirements. And when you're putting the handicap ramp down, you want to make sure you meet the minimum requirements so you don't have to rebuild it. And so that was redesigned and it was extended into beyond the original project line. Again, a handicap ramp is something that we had funding for. The scope of the grants that we had it allows us to spend that money on that ramp, even though it's a different grant. And the same thing with the railings there. Another example, David Gordon is here. We originally had it in keeping with the design, the new downtown design. And it was purely an optional thing. The property owner would have that right to accept or reject that. In this case, the property owner accepted it. And sometime later, after thinking about it, decided that the actual design was really not the best design from his point of view. Still certainly has the right to accept or reject that sign. After several discussions, and if I'm saying anything wrong, David, I want to hear it. An acceptable design was agreed upon, and the requirements were changed. And again, the grant money that we have allows money to be spent for masonry sign work in there. Even though we changed the specifications of the sign, we were still spending the money legally and appropriately. Okay, and just as a comment, because I've heard this so many times, the idea that we could on our own, or even ask an agency to take the grant money that we have for street, for traffic patterns, for sidewalks, for parking, and consider buying firefighting equipment with that grant money is just obviously a disconnect, obviously would not work. Yet, I've heard comments, I've heard many comments in the last several months about spending grant money on firefighting equipment. So I want to say that to the public because it's a continuing apples and orange comparison. And to me, it's very cut and dry, it's very black and white, it's very clear. We don't have any grant funds that would support the purchase of firefighting equipment. Okay? So again, back to this whole idea of the construction project being a living animal, those are the examples that I give you. We go through it and we see it and we say, wow, property owner would like something different. Council members have concerns about things. At our June meeting, we spent a long time discussing why it might be good to consider restricting parking on the south side of Water Street. And the primary reason that we stated was safety. And what I've done now to further support that issue is I've got some crash statistics for our town. We use these statistics to justify the grant money that we got from PennDOT TAP funds. We're very much justified and awarded for us based on safety issues, based on issues of installing new pedestrian crosswalks, visible, noticeable crosswalks for safety, very much dependent upon crash statistics, which I provided to PennDOT in my personal presentation in the OSC 2.5 years ago. And those are typically, and in this case, were definitely factors in us receiving that $400,000 grant. So, and I want to start out. let me finish my presentation.
Go ahead.
The reason why I brought the projector, and I know there's a lot of public interest in this, you all have hard copies of this, you can read this. Other than this chart, I think everyone will be able to see these charts electronically. So allow me to go through them, and I'll gladly answer your questions at the end of my presentation. It's a coherent conversation and presentation which flows. Please hold your questions until after the presentation. The first chart is something that PennDOT, as the state's road agency is required to do, is to collect crash statistics for just about every roadway, every PennDOT roadway in the state. And these numbers are readily available to the public, and what is captured in this database are reportable accidents. That is where typically law enforcement is involved, and there are many other accidents that occur in the state that are not reportable accidents, that are not recorded in the database. And those are typically the purely property damage ones, where someone sideswiped while they're in a shopping center parking lot and have no idea how it happened, but you know your car was damaged. And those are typically handled by private automobile insurance companies. And so, unfortunately, they don't break that down by location and make that available to the public, as PennDOT does for reportable accidents. So, when we talk about accidents on state highways, there really are two categories of accidents to consider. There are reportable accidents, which I'm going to show you here, and then there are unreported accidents, of which they definitely do occur. And so when you look at this chart, those of you who can't see it, I'll point out the relevant numbers. Looking at our Water Street between First Street and Third Street, which comprises our project area, and looking at the last 3 years that are available, 2018 data is not yet available. Looking at the last 3 years of available data for reported accidents, there were 7 reported accidents in what is now the project area that we're working on Water Street. And that is further broken down by personal injuries. And of those 7 accidents during that 3-year period, there were 4 injuries associated with those accidents. And we already know from recent memory that we had accidents in 2018. I think someone mentioned it earlier, of state police chasing someone into town. That resulted in at least 2 injuries. And so we definitely have a regular pattern and a known pattern of reported crashes in our project area. I think all of us here probably know someone or more who has had their car sideswiped or has had a mirror knocked off of their car, which they had to pay for themselves, or whatever portion that their insurance company would not cover. And those number of accidents are certainly much more frequent than reportable accidents, and we all know those accidents occur. So looking at that number, you see that there is a regular, it's not an infrequent thing to have accidents on Water Street. Why is that? It's because it's a very narrow roadway. We have parking on both sides of the street, and we have a lot of traffic. And we also have a lot of large truck traffic that comes into town. So those are the reasons why we have this pattern of accidents on the street. So if you turn to the next chart, please. Just for comparison's sake, and I don't want people to walk away with the impression that 2 accidents per year that involve bodily injury is insignificant. It is a significant number, in my opinion, as an elected member of this borough, is that we should have a goal of having 0 accidents and 0 bodily injury accidents on our town streets. But as a matter of comparison, I also asked for and received the accident statistics from the same period of time for the main downtown street in Limestone, which of course is Mercer Street. And going from the high school on Mercer Street in Limestone all the way down to
West Boulder.
West.
no, that's the other street. I'm sorry, to Mercer Street. Mercer Street is the light that turns, that you would turn to go to the spillway, which a lot of, like Huntley, they have a lot of tourist traffic there. In fact, they have more tourist traffic there than we do. And so looking at their statistics for the same period of time, with the tourist traction going through their town, wide Main Street in Linesville. Their driving lane is much wider than our driving lane. Their parking lanes are much wider than our parking lanes. So for comparison, you could say for a similar borough in a similar part of the state, you have a comparison there that we had an unsafe downtown. And the numbers here prove that. I deal with facts. I don't try to support things that I do with facts. I want to turn to the next chart, please. I have here, and this is an engineering design two-scale drawing, and you'll see the numbers on here. And this is the parking configuration that we had on Water Street in that section prior to the construction, beginning of construction. And what we have here is very narrow driving lanes and very narrow parking. There are PennDOT standards for what these lanes should ideally be. And we have 7 feet on both sides of the street for parking. We had parking on both sides, and we had a driving lane of 11 feet. The PennDOT desired amount for this type of a street, which I'll show the spec in a minute, is 8 feet for a parking lane and 11 to 12 feet for a driving lane. So we are below the minimum for parking on Water Street, and we are at the minimum for a driving lane. And if you look at the scale picture, you'll see that what I think is a typical type of vehicle that we have here in northwestern Pennsylvania, that being a large SUV or being a pickup truck, park in that 7-foot lane. You'll see if a person is concerned enough to park right against the curb, as those vehicles are depicted in the drawing, even getting as close to the curb as they can, it's not physically possible to park in that 7-foot wide lane when you have parking on both sides and not having a mirror hang out or part of your bumper hang out, which would explain why we have a frequent occurrence of cars being sideswiped on Water Street. So that is what was the status quo before we started construction. Now, for comparison on the next chart, the proposal that we discussed again in detail at our meeting last month, and the reason we discussed that is like the same reason we were discussing construction progress today, because it's a living, breathing animal, and we're discussing it as we go through. And it became obvious to a lot of people as we saw these new light poles being installed very close to the street, as we saw the barrels set up to keep traffic away from the work areas, that people were coming by hitting barrels. People were coming by almost hitting construction workers. Fortunately, we haven't had any injuries, but there was a real possibility of that happening. And it led to a discussion on the part of me with some of the construction managers, the federal design engineers, and eventually the council members here, that we have a very unsafe situation there in the design that we agreed to go with, basically replicating the status quo was something that had some serious safety issues with it. So if we look at the design we had proposed and talked about, and I did throw these numbers out in our discussion last month, but I didn't have these drawings right, but I understand there's a lot of public interest, and I knew that there would be public interest tonight. That's why I wanted the extent of making these drawings and having them there to project the public. But if you look at the motion that we passed last month, that would have resulted in a configuration as I'm showing in this chart right here, where we have a 9-foot wide parking lane on the north side of the street, where we're able to widen the driving lane to 11.5 feet, and then having a 4-foot shoulder on the other side. We believe in our discussion, and that this would be a much safer configuration. People are using the term eliminate parking. Our proposal wasn't to eliminate parking. Our proposal was to relocate parking. And so we made that proposal, we discussed that. The borough is fortunate in that the borough owns property behind those businesses. The same businesses we're talking about here with regard to parking. Owns property behind that borough. It's called Church Alley. And we're very fortunate in that we've had private property donated to us, which is adjacent to Church Alley. There is property behind those buildings. I've heard people say they don't know where this is at. It's directly behind there. It may appear to be someone's yard right now. There's grass growing on it. It's a slope hillside. There's a telephone pole there which will be removed in the next days. There are garbage dumpsters in there that are on borough property that could be moved. So there is adequate space for replacing the parking from the south side of Water Street to the borough-owned property it. So many municipalities in the state have a very similar ordinance as we do. And if you look at the ordinance with regard to businesses, building businesses, as we had our own experience with Patavi Cafe, when you build a business, you have to have a plan for parking. And the plan for parking in our zoning ordinance, which is something that would not be in sync with things that were done in 1960, is that you find off-street parking to support your business depending on the business type. And those factors are, as you know, are spelled out very clearly in our zoning ordinance. So having parking in front of most of the businesses on the south side are boarded up and not used or in bankruptcy, with the exception of your business. So having parking in the front of those businesses would not help them in any way for getting a permit to operate a business. They simply have to, as Patavi did, they simply have to identify off-street parking, commensurate type of business that we're talking about. So
Is this going to go on forever?
Wait, hang on, please.
I've got questions,
What?
and I'm going to make comments.
Write your question down.
Finish.
Close down, Mike.
I'm not going to write it down.
Hang on. Go ahead.
Hold your question.
Hold your,
Hey, Mike, easy. Go ahead.
So our zoning ordinance, point being that there undoubtedly, things will change in the future. People will buy these properties, people will either renovate them or bulldoze them and build new properties. And they will do like all of the other new businesses in our Water Street district have done, like Rite Aid has done, like Sheetz has done, like the new restaurant that John has done. There will be parking provided off-street because it's required by our zoning ordinance unless we give them the variance.
Right, exactly.
So there's nothing radical or nothing unforeseen about suggesting that when those businesses are reoccupied, they will have parking on Main Street. So again, the proposal, as we discussed last month, was to relocate the parking from the south side of Water Street to those buildings on the borough property. And let me go to the next chart, please. The actual lane list that I talked about and the ideal list for parking lanes and the ideal list for driving lanes are specified in this PennDOT manual, design manual part 2. And in particular, there are different types of roadways described in this specification. The appropriate one for our Main Street is something called community arterial and or community collective road. So those, you can look at those standards that I referred to that are in this document right here. So the last chart that I want to show is this one right here. This is the a portion of the drawing with the configuration for the change that was approved at our meeting last month. And it shows the parking being stated on all being stated on the north side of Water Street, and it shows that we're going to have handicap parking at both at the corner of First Street and the corner of Second Street, and it shows 13 other spaces of varying size because of the configuration of light bulbs and the configuration of other things in the street. So, and it shows no parking signs on the south side with the shoulders, a 4-foot wide shoulder of no parking. Again, from some of our point of view, a much safer situation, and equivalent parking in a very nearby location behind those shops. So that's my summary of the discussion that we had, that we all heard, and at the time, the majority of us agreed with last month.
Obviously, we'll take questions. Bill?
I'd like to ask Mike this question.
Michael, please.
Now, first off, you have been telling everybody since this started that there was going to be parking on both sides of the street.
This is a change to the original.
And we were also told, and the hydrants are a perfect example, once it's approved, it cannot be changed. Now, have you personally gone behind those businesses and taken a look around where you're going to send your customers?
Yes.
And how are they, if you put them back there, are they going to pull their wheelchair all the way around so they can get up? Wait a minute.
You got three issues so far.
Yeah, well, I got more. Last month, this road that you keep referring to, nobody had heard anything about this You ramrodded a vote through by, number one, telling us, everybody here, that you had gone and talked to the business owners, and they were all okay with it. Am I right or am I wrong? That was what was
You're
said.
wrong. You're wrong.
No, I'm not,
Would you like me to
because I want,
Would you like me to respond?
when I'm done.
Okay.
I don't have any slides, but I have shit to say. I talked to a lot of these people, and you never showed up and talked to anybody.
Why did it suddenly come
Wait a
up?
minute, wait a minute. That had nothing to do with the state. I don't.
Okay, my point, which I'll repeat my point in a different way.
Oh, you mean so I'll understand?
No, please.
I can answer your question. You're asking me a question. Wait, let me answer your question.
I am asking you a question.
I said that looking at this design plan on a two-dimensional drawing is one thing, but to actually see it being built and to physically feel what it looks like makes one question whether that design was as good as it looked on paper. For that reason, we've been making changes, and I mentioned four of them, and I can mention more that we made because we see it built.
I understand.
And this whole idea of a parking lane is another example of that same thing.
But you have told everybody that it is going to have parking on
I
it
told
during
everybody,
this whole.
I told everybody we were going to have a railing on Tony's Restaurant that we're not going to have there now.
Bill, and
So-
Bill, I'm confused, so Bill, I'm going to ask your help. What does a handrail on Tony's have direct relationship to the parking that's needed to keep Tony in business? I don't understand the correlation. It'll help in any-
The point I'm trying to make here is that changes are a
Well,
common thing.
I agree.
Let me finish.
Well,
The
please,
changes
Bill.
are a
It's
common
common
thing
sense.
in a construction project. Okay, you built a house, probably you know that happens.
Oh, we all do.
And this is, as far as I'm concerned, this was a normal occurrence that
This is a
we learned
pretty
first. That we learned first from talking to the workers on the street about the dangers.
About the city.
Yeah, well, they've narrowed it, so they have those barrels pushed
Well-
out so far.
I have a question on the whole safety thing. Get back to the reports. Linesville versus Coney Lake. Do you have current traffic counts for traffic flowing through Coney Lake versus traffic?
I get one, we like, yeah.
I mean, I believe that Coney Lake has a significant more amount of traffic than Linesville.
Absolutely.
I would like to see the numbers, but I would like to look at these crash statistics and see the thousands of cars that go through the borough every day in over 3 years. We have a total of 7 incidents. That seems to be very, very good to me.
Yeah, I would think that our goal would be to have 0 accidents, not to be accepting of a little over 2 accidents on average per year.
That's never going to
But
happen.
that's, that's
Never.
above
That
Bill.
is, I guess, I agree.
Well, my other question is, Linesville does have parking on both sides of the street.
Oh, why? Go ahead.
But the wider, so the main difference is Linesville's wider versus Coney Lake.
That's the point I'm making.
Yeah, okay. But I would love to see the traffic counts. I mean, I've had businesses in both downtown Coney Lake and Linesville, and there's a major difference in traffic between the two towns.
It's not hard to run across the street and come.
Well, I would, think that that our town is also very safe. I do love the fact that cars approaching both sides of the barrier between our pedestrians and cars running through there. We do have, 5 roads that intervene from Coney Lake?
Well, state highway.
Absolutely.
One of the accidents, John, that Bill.
Well, I was going to.
Well, one of the accidents
Or on
that
Thursday.
occurred was because of high speed and alcohol-related incidents. Thank goodness there was a parked car on the side, or that car most likely would have been in the building, but it hit a car first and then hit the telephone pole in front of my hardware store. To be blunt, again, I'm not a crash scene analysis, but I believe if that car hadn't been there, parked on the street, it would have been.
Dick, you are totally entitled to make an assumption, and I could also make a different assumption. And I could make the assumption that if we didn't have parking on the south side, there would have been enough room for that car to avoid hitting the other car. head on.
No, it wouldn't have, because it hit, the first car was parked in front of a cottage. That's the one that struck first. So that isn't accurate. And again, like
It's an
Linesville.
assumption. It's an assumption.
I have one last.
No, it's the speed, basically coming into town in a westerly direction.
This would in no
causes
way,
the most
by
problems.
removing traffic, we would in no way be slowing down cars, correct?
I have one last thing.
Mike,
And I'm done. You have a petition with 600 names on it. I have a feeling most of these people that have taken the time to sit here all evening and listen to this boring stuff have an interest in having parking on both sides of the street. It is our job to do what the people that elected us to do. It's as simple as that.
Well, again, I don't, first of all, for Mike, you and everyone else, I'm sure there's no one seated here this evening that is not concerned about safety. You and I both. I mean, I'm sure that's of the utmost concern. I just don't see.
Is there anyone here in favor of removing parking?
Well, yeah, I'm not sure that's fair, but although, well, no, but I mean, I don't see the statistics.
How can you have your business owners? I'm a business owner, just like you are, Nick. And I need parking in front of my store, okay?
So do I.
I've been here long enough and I'm tired of listening to it all. We need, Amy and anybody else who owns a business in town knows we have to have parking in front of our store. In the dead of winter, I have a tough time trying to make things work. Because we don't get the traffic during the winter. And you think somebody's gonna want to come into that, in the store, and they have to park clear on the other side of town or somewhere, when they're handicapped, or they have other problems, they need to be coming into my store.
Well,
Bill, you're not a business owner, you don't understand.
well,
You know, I can appreciate anybody's opinion, but I cannot appreciate personal attacks that I'm getting every day of my life.
well, and again, I think it's because of our individual opinions, and I think we need to address that. But I'm not seeing from, again, strictly the borough's crash report, I'm not seeing a traffic safety issue between First and Second Street on our crash analysis. I'm putting a lot of my weight on PennDOT's recommendation that specifically says it is a traffic calming, slowing down the traffic entering into the borough, and that's the number one complaint I get from citizens, the traffic's going too fast.
We could slow down traffic in a heartbeat. All we have to do is change the light by First Street.
Well, that'll help, but some of the accidents, Bill, that you discussed, no, I mean, in our crash analysis that we do, many of the incidences are at Water and First, and they are accidents because somebody coming into town hit someone stopped at the light, not because of the cars parked on the road. These are cars in the cartway. I just don't believe all of the information.
The one thing I notice is that both of your data is from the period of time before these improvements were made. The street is straight now.
Mm-hmm.
It was trapezoidal before, now it's straight lane through.
Right.
We've improved the lighting. We're adding a considerable size block behind. I think those are all wins.
Well, of course, I said that.
I guess I have a hard time right now because I don't have any statistical data since these changes were made. If there's
Well, we can't.
exactly, but I guess my recommendation would be, if we're serious about this, what's one more year? What's wrong with putting this on the agenda for September of 2019? We'd have a full winter, all the construction we done, we'll have a full winter of that traffic pattern, and any damage, any property damage to the borough, any property damage to people's cars, anything.
With or without the parking?
With parking, as it is now, and then go all through summer, because this summer is atypical. Nobody, we can't.
Well, not with the construction. We've had more accidents between
I would feel more
First and
comfortable
Second since
a
the
year from
construction
now.
than a year previous.
I would be more comfortable a year from now with data based on, okay, this is what's happened since these changes, since
We
the
can
improvements.
always, and this is what Jeff explained to me on the phone a week or two ago. We can always change that. You're absolutely correct. But
The design here shows straight between cars. I think that's absolutely great.
oh, absolutely.
On both sides.
Right.
I also think it should go straight parallel to the roadway. So when someone opens the door, if they don't see the stripe, they know the road is blocked.
All of those things could be helpful, but and I'm going to beg Bill's help here, one of the issues that I think is pertinent tonight, and Bill brought this up a couple hours ago, the milling is going to occur, the paving is going to occur, and very shortly after that, the lines are going to be put down. It's a known fact that once the lines are down, we're not going to easily change that economically speaking. We would have to go back and pay PennDOT to remill that and reline, or stripe, I should say, that particular area. Time is of the essence. I believe, I'm going to ask Bill's help, I believe that's going to take place about Wednesday or possibly Thursday with the line striping.
This is why we asked for a decision in June.
Right. But again, I don't see statistics to bear out the accidents, the injuries. I don't see them. I know there's an absolute need. Bill, I applaud you for trying to get more parking in the rear because everybody back there needs it. There needs to be room for patrons, not patrons, I'm sorry, but the owners, the managers, the help, the tenants, as was mentioned earlier. All of that needs to be done. The removal of that pole is going to be a big help. If we can relocate the dumpsters for the use of those people there, that's going to be a help. All of those things are true. And I'm not criticizing you for attempting to get more off-street parking. But my point is, when there was parking on both sides of the street, there wasn't enough parking. I mean, there just wasn't enough.
Let's
Number
just
one-
vote, huh?
There's no motion on the floor.
Somebody make a motion.
Put a motion
Well,
on
hold it, guys, come on. I know it's a late hour.
No, you've all said the same thing to each other time and time again. You're not gonna convince him, he's not gonna convince you.
Yeah.
Come on.
Let's,
But we want to vote for the people that are supposed to represent us.
again, and we want to do what's
Well, right
best.
now, you have parking on both sides because the original vote was nullified. So as it
So there
sits
should be
right,
no discussion.
so if at this point in time,
We still have parking.
you have parking on both sides.
Right.
Right now, this minute.
But you're saying the same thing back and forth to each other. and The word again is used every third sentence.
Excuse me.
Oh, the councilman has the floor. Please,
Excuse me, let's look at it. I'd like to look at this logically and rationally. I know it's a hot issue, and I understand. But I think that we have several things that we can do. One of the things that Billy brought up was the fact that we don't have to take it to a vote tonight. We can defer action on this, and the status quo stays the same. Right?
No,
Jeff?
no.
No, no, it's set up to make parking gone.
No, but that vote didn't
It
exist.
didn't exist. It's nullified because Billy.
Okay, so that vote is no longer in effect.
Exactly, it's gone.
Just like we didn't.
So then don't call for a motion, don't call for a vote, and let it die, just as if there was no second, is what you're saying.
That's what Penny
Basically,
suggested.
yeah.
So the discussion of saying the same thing back and forth at each other is basically a waste of time.
Well, again, Jim, but to get to the truth.
I want to hear both, as a council person.
I like the temporary idea. That's great. That's wonderful. But the amount of time, like I say, Dick, you're not going to convince him, Bill, you're not
No,
going to
but what
convince
we're
Nick.
looking for is the truth and the accurate information. That's really what we're looking
Okay,
for.
well, who's related to this
And
point?
again, is it?
Questions, hold it, gentlemen, ladies. Mike, please.
I think we're still debating the issue, and as council, we have the right to do that. And Bill, I'd like you to put the slide up there again, if you would, of what the street looks like now. I voted to end the parking on the south side, because that's what it looks like. When I come through town, I go down High Street and down Strawberry Avenue. I avoid the main street as often as I can. I have a truck with wide mirrors. My son has 3 of them. Wouldn't think of parking on that street. Wouldn't dream of it. We have vehicles that park on the sidewalk now, 2 wheels up on the sidewalk. They're over having lunch or coffee or doing whatever. They're not going to be able to do that now. I mean, the curbs are different. They'll tear them up, they'll bang it into the light poles. there's a safety.
Well, that's gonna happen with cars.
Excuse me, Mike. There's a safety factor here. If you can't see that factor with the street as narrow as it is and the parking on both sides, I don't own a business. And I respect everybody who was here tonight speaking and the positions that you took. There's an attempt to make up some of that parking behind the building. Is it gorgeous back there? I don't know. I very seldom go back there.
Well,
Will it look better? Perhaps, if that's where parking does take place. Can we find parking somewhere else in town? I mean, we have buildings at both ends of Water Street, and there's empty lots. Will they ever be something more than what they are now? I think we need to look forward. You know, when I was a kid here, I could go to Virgil Keene's gas station to get air in the tires of my bike, and he'd give me a nickel if I would fan him for 5 minutes while he laid on his couch. Many of you don't even know who Virgil Keene was.
Yes, we do.
I remember when there were 14 or 15 gas stations around the lake, when I used to come on the ferry boat with my grandmother to shop at the Red and White. Zaxby's didn't exist. There was a school there. The point is, there's change, and most people are opposed to change. And I'm seeing it tonight. We're opposed to change. There wasn't one business owner who presented an economic picture for us. They didn't open their books in any way. They didn't tell us how they were affected by the construction that's going on, by having orange barrels all over the street where there hasn't
that
been
too,
parking.
I believe they're here, you can ask them.
Yeah, you can ask me.
I'm
38 years
some of them left.
I'm 38, I'm not opposed to change. I do change every day in real estate. And I have to deal with that. I'm not opposed to change, so I take offense to that. It's not changing, it's leaving it the way that it is because we support the downtown. I'd love to make the donation to the downtown project. Us as ERA have not done that. Next month, when this project is done, I'm spending probably about $30,000 on my building, putting a new front porch on it, new shutters, new lighting, new siding to support the downtown. Why do I want to, you look at my building now, it looks like shit, honestly, because I ripped out all the landscaping last week. Getting all new landscaping. I'm trying to support the downtown by putting $30,000 into my building. And you're telling me I'm opposed to change? The parking has been there forever. Have I been affected? Oh yeah. I had to meet people at the coffee shop in Newville because they want to drive out to Pontiac Lake. You know, then you get the factor of, are you going to meet me somewhere else? I can't park right now. I'm coming from Lionsville. Will you run over and sign the paperwork in the car? If you own a business downtown, support the downtown.
Not only that, but Mike, you did say you really hadn't been behind those.
Absolutely.
Now look at that park.
I don't have now, but I haven't been.
My question is,
That is honest to God. If that's what you want to show visitors to Pontiac Lake,
absolutely.
then shame on all of us when we vote that.
I would like to know where the parking is. Number one, I'm a taxpayer, so I pay $4,200 a year. My taxes, $46. I don't know. I pay them. I'm happy. So, where's these parking lots that we're going to make 5, 8, 10, 12 spaces? If they're grass now, which I think Bill said they're grass, or somebody else said they're grass, so my taxes are going to go up to pay those, to maintain those. I paid $4,200 in the borough of Pontiac Lake.
No, there's no tax increase necessary for that improvement.
It's going to be eventually.
If you...
You're going to make the borough get a $400,000 or $500,000 loan? You have 700 and some residents in the borough. That's going to have, the borough's going to pay for it. I'm going to pay for it.
Simple answer is no, you're wrong.
Well,
Taxes
I think
go up. Okay.
David, I think we're slightly off the subject.
Yeah, let me finish.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike, I didn't know you were.
In addition to being on Borough Council, I also sit on the Crawford County Planning Commission. And so I turned to that group of people, and I asked them at our last meeting, PennDOT happened to be there. The comment was made, having parking on one side in Pontiac Lake is the right choice. Now, that was the county officials, part of the loans that we have come through the county, and they administrate those loans for us. The second thing that they provided to me was statistics on shopping. And it was that the average American will walk as much as a quarter of a mile in order to shop.
I would like to see
Now, I think we've all been to Rose City Mall. I think we've all been to Mill Creek Mall. Where do you park your car and how far do you go to walk when you're in the mall? It's
Not
ridiculous, something different. It's a change we're talking about.
Guys, is public support. Hopefully people will use common sense and not be there.
Wishes horse to pay for horse.
Well, I understand that, but, you know.
I got a Ford F-150.
To
You
define.
mean I can't sign?
No, I don't think we're saying that. I think what John is suggesting, if it fits within the parking indicators.
Comment,
Yeah.
I can't walk a quarter mile,
Yeah, well,
and I'm not the only one. We're a town with a lot of older people, and Mike, if you drive a big truck, don't park on the sidewalk, go around the back of the businesses.
What he does.
Where you can have parking.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I've got a truck. I mean, we'll throw it out on the table, I've got a truck.
okay, Mike, well, we have to come to a resolution here someplace. We gotta put it into this.
I had a motion.
Okay, well, just a minute. Now, one of the things that's very important, Mike, that I think everybody would agree. Bill has worked his butt off. I don't think there's anybody here that doesn't agree with that. He's worked his butt off to be able to get these funds. We're spending $2.5 million to improve one block of downtown County Lake with all of the improvements. We're increasing the lighting. We're making the sidewalks level that was presented in Bill Hillgrove's video. We're adding the handicap ramps and the rails to make it easier for all of us to get in and out of the buildings. We're doing all of those things, and then we're asking people to park in the back. It doesn't make any logical sense to spend $2.5 million to make it pretty if it isn't functional. We
Do
need.
you have any level access to the rear of your building?
Well, I don't, and the rest don't either, but that's exactly one of the points. I think that we said earlier, maybe we should have spent the $2.5 million in the back of the buildings, and we would have had adequate parking
We should have
and easy
spent
access. But we didn't. And again, safety is of the utmost concern to this council. And we have to make sure that that exists. And Bill's 100% correct. You don't want to ignore that. You please don't ignore that. I don't see statistics proving out that First Street to Second Street with accidents are an issue. That the type of accident that does occur, mine looking at here, not reportable, was 2 from the borough. Those happen in parking lots. There's a car dealer here that I'm sure would lie if he said none of these employees ever backed up into a car. It happens a lot. It happens in the big stores parking lots. It happens in the small stores parking lots. And the difference is the business people have to pay those insurance claims when there's an argument. I've paid many myself. I provide parking, and to make David's point, I pay taxes. For some reason, it seems to be about Ralston's Hardware. Please, I have more parking, although limited, I have more parking than any of these businesses. And yet, I don't have enough. Library Day, I don't have any room for my customer parking. Okay?
And if you do that to the street, you're gonna have a lot more people.
Well, the bottom line is, well, that's true, Mike, but the bottom line is, I'm not the individual that's going to ask the library not to permit their women and little children come to the library, and I'm going to use my parking lot. Have I had accidents that my insurance had to cover? Have I had falls back there that my insurance had to cover? Yeah. They're making private parking to become public parking that we have to own, maintain, plow, pick up the cigarette butts, and insure. That's the part that's being missed right here. Bill is 100% right. We need parking in the back of those buildings for the tenants, and for the business people, and for the owners, and the clerks, and the waitresses, and the dishwashers. Those are all needed. Any parking Bill can get back there in the back is an absolute positive plus. Please don't take a dozen off the front when people are coming from the west heading east. There's a belief that they don't stop on the southbound lane and go across the street to Vacavi's or Tony's in the morning. We know that's not true. They do it all the time. It's just ludicrous to think that in the name of economic development, we're eliminating the one thing that business needs most, and that's working. And that's all I can suggest to you. I'm sorry, sir.
We're talking this to death.
Yes, we are.
We are.
But it's an important subject. Mike.
Yeah, I understand, but the same points are being made. If there's anybody here that doesn't get it by now, you probably should leave.
How
I'm
about,
ready to go.
let me bounce this off. I'm getting a much clearer picture about where everyone feels on this topic than in June. I think everyone is in agreement that we have a very narrow main street, and we have a very challenging narrow parking. Would there be any interest in restricted parking on both sides for small vehicles?
Well, I think the term, first of all, in answer to one of your rebuttals last month, was parking on the sidewalk that the curb wouldn't hold the weight. I would question immediately who spec'd that concrete. If a rubber tire is going to damage the curb, what the heck is PennDOT snowplow going to do to it? I mean, if the concrete won't hold a rubber tire being bumped into, I'm a little nervous about the snowplow. Question number one. But it is a Pennsylvania code that if people park on the sidewalk, they can be cited. We don't even have to pass an ordinance. That's a law. We can do that. But in answer to your question, no truck parking on the highway or on the street would make a lot of sense.
However, it won't work.
Well, it
No sheets. All those signs here, no SUVs, small cars only. Every time you have
well, the reason for those signs are, and I've discussed that with the chiefs people, the reason for those signs are so that when somebody backs up and there's no room and they knock the taillight or a headlight out, Sheetz isn't responsible. Sheetz has more accidents in their parking lot than Bill's statistics for Conneaut Lake Borough every year. It's unbelievable. The number of minor accidents, meters, scratches, fenders that get backed into.
I'd like to discuss a variation on the motion that passed last month. If we were to make a combination of restricting truck parking on Water Street and having parking on both sides, and still create additional parking behind the building.
Additional? Absolutely.
And direct truck having traffic there to park, that could possibly be a compromise that would work.
Well, I think it would work. I mean, again, I've said it over and over, as Mike already told us. The additional parking is an absolute plus. There's no doubt about that. In any location, particularly behind the businesses that are in question.
Are you talking just signs, Bill, that would say, no truck parking, please refer to the lot?
No truck parking.
I mean, I'm not talking about changing the ordinance, Jeff, but it says we have to do it.
Because that would take care of some of the safety issues also.
How many people today drive?
Well, that was Bill's point. A lot of people drive trucks, so they would have to use alternative parking. Yeah. Well, I hear that.
Okay, I have a question.
Got you.
If you put all these signs up, who's gonna enforce it?
Well, it would have to be the regional police department.
Do they have time to go around writing tickets for parking?
Well, again, if they're in coffees for 15 minutes getting coffee, no, they'll never
No,
enforce it.
because they don't write tickets for those people parking with coffees in front of the yellow line.
No.
Or they do at your place, nor do they do in front of Marquette.
Well, what it would do though, Jim, if like Mike suggested, if he's nervous about parking there with a wide vehicle, it might be an incentive to say park.
Well, everyone was taught to parallel park when they turned 16 and drive. Obviously, no one knows how to do that, because if they're this far out from the curb, they are gonna get their meters.
Well, what if we have, so we have the white line from the parking, and we say, please make sure your vehicle's inside the white line?
That would probably make a lot more sense.
But my question
Yes,
is,
it will not parallel.
and Bill, I'm gonna, just a second, guys. All these signs we're talking about, are we gonna be able to put those on our poles with straps? I mean, we don't drill any holes. I mean, you don't want more signposts along the brand new concrete. You'd have to
We
attach
don't
any.
enforce anything anyhow.
Well, no, but I meant, if we post a sign up to help, they would have to go on the light pole.
The plan right now has 4 or 5 signs there. It's a matter of changing the sign.
Well, I guess that begs the question, are we looking,
Hey, we'll let you know.
I'm sorry.
Since we are looking at exploring alternatives, should we now allow parking on both sides? As of right now, there's no ordinance change. No restrictions. Really think about this and plan it out, and then bring that back
Well,
The
that's a
only
wonderful
thing-
idea, except for the striping, which we would have to do.
But I mean, is that,
Plan
that's,
out, I mean, he's already presented the plan.
well, right now, there isn't any, because his vote didn't count, so there's no restriction.
I understand, but it's.
While they're discussing, can you tell me, the drawings do show the parking indicators, on both sides. Are those gonna be part of the striping, or is that on us?
No, it's part of the process. There will be signs inserted in the curb.
Well, the indication on the street,
He's talking the painted
the
box.
painted bars for the parking, is that on us, or is that PennDOT's?
They are the project, and when the paving is done, there will be line painted on the road.
Yes.
Right now, we're debating what lines are going to be painted on the road.
Well, yes, no, we're not debating that at all. What I'm asking is the key bars that are shown in the drawings where the number of parking spaces are, is that something that we, yes, thank you.
Yes, no,
Do
that-
we provide that, or is that part of the
That will be
present?
part of the design, that's what the contractor will do, exactly what's on that piece of paper.
Well, I mean, I think that answers Jim's question. I mean, those lines will come out where the cars got to fit, and what you just said, if the field's too wide, you shouldn't be there.
Exactly.
I mean,
Just like if you park in Walmart, and you're not inside the line, and someone opens up the door and smacks your, it's not that person's
you mean
fault.
sheets?
Well, whatever. Okay, you can't go into Walmart and say, this asshole, dinged my door. It's not gonna happen.
Well, yeah.
That's not true.
Where are we at, Jeff? I mean, what's the right thing?
I have no idea.
Let it. If we don't take them up at tonight,
We have,
Bill wants to make them.
We need a motion to decide if we're going to invest money in increasing the parking capacity on borough property behind the shops on Water Street. And there's also another need which I had to discuss, but because some of the property owners have chosen their right not to accept the landscaping that was in the original
Right.
design, we the borough are going to end up paying for the landscaping whether we use it or not. There is a financial benefit to the borough of using the landscaping as opposed, and the reason for that is if we use it, the grant will pay for it. If we don't use it, and just opt not to use it, we will pay for the plants that were ordered that were not delivered and planted. So therefore, if we invest money in creating 10 parking spaces on borough property on the north side of Water Street, we could also plant those shrubs in that location as an edge.
When you say north side, you mean behind that?
Behind.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes. But the actual, there would be a slight swell that would be built up,
Right.
maybe a foot high.
For my
Above
clarity,
that would be the lake.
are we speaking to the property that a few years ago Bob and Kathy Moss donated to the borough along Church? Is that what
We're
we're
talking about that property, and further on down, we're talking about the church alley as it goes all the way down to what appears to be the east house, but it's really borough property.
First Street? Yes.
Right, right.
Right.
And so that whole, basically, we're talking about a line of cars with, if you can visualize their headlights facing the lake
Okay.
along that line, that church line.
Well,
and-
we
and
are
the farm
using that, if you go back there, we are using a lot of that.
it is not efficiently used.
Well, no, it isn't efficiently used because of the grading. If that were regraded and so on, it would be more
Well,
efficient.
That's exactly what we had planned, was to regrade it.
But that's needed.
And to correct the water flow problem, that is by putting
To
in.
keep the erosion from going down.
And by putting in the landscaping,
okay, I had a
We have a
motion,
recorder on, I can't.
I have a motion made to vote on this.
I'm sorry?
I made a motion to vote on this.
Okay.
Now, if that, nobody has a nerve to say,
No,
that's fine. But I'd like to have a vote in front of the people who spent all this time sitting here, so they can see who votes no.
I think we're gonna get to the motion, and we're gonna get to have an opportunity.
No, I've already made a motion, and I'd like to know if anybody will second. That's all.
What was your motion?
Say your motion again.
I would like to make a motion that we finally approve, as was drawn up in the original plan, by Mr. Elderton Company that there be parking on both sides of Main Street, from First Street to Second Street. Now, does it get any more complicated than that? Now, will anybody second that?
My question again to Jeff, is that a needed motion since we presently already have that parking?
Mike's made the motion, irrespective of whether it's needed or not. Right now, the status quo is we have parking on both sides of Water Street. So nothing really needs to be done. Mike's made the motion, so.
Right.
Show how you're going to vote.
If we do not make that vote, they're going to keep coming at us and coming at us and coming at us till they get to Stripe Street and parking on one side. Mark my words, that's exactly what's going on.
We haven't sat here and listened to what people in the community have to say. Do you think we're not smart enough to listen to what's being said? So why turn this into a sideshow?
I'm not trying to turn, I just want to vote.
Michael,
Yes.
Would you let Bill speak for a couple minutes? Just to finish what he wanted to make a motion, and I don't need another hour, 5 minutes.
Yeah, but
And because
this
I
is a
have,
motion to override my motion.
I tell you why I'm trying to hold off here. I have a feeling that Bill is trying to make a solution that everybody can live with, not just forget about.
Well, you spoke for half an hour, why didn't you?
Well, he said he wanted
He
to.
just explained.
So let's just listen one more time, please.
What would you recommend?
For you, buddy.
Thank you.
What would you recommend?
I'd like to make a motion. I would like to make a motion.
Hold on.
Wait.
I really
There's
need
a
to
motion,
hear him.
there's a motion on the table. So
I
there's
agree.
either a second, or the motion dies for lack of a second. Or Mike withdraws his motion before we have another motion.
Thank you, Jeff, that's what I was asking a moment ago.
What would you like to do?
I will
He has a
not,
motion.
I will not.
I would have to ask for a second. Would someone,
Yes,
second?
because I will not withdraw my
No,
vote.
no, but would
If nobody
someone,
wants to,
Mike, wait a minute, we're trying to get this to a head. Mike has made a motion that we keep parking on Water Street as it has been for the last 100 years, or whatever your language was. Is there a second to that motion?
okay,
Phil,
Give up.
Phil for the one of a second.
because I'm gonna
Now,
tell.
Just wait.
No, I'm just about ready to leave.
What do we all do?
I would like to make a motion, and I would try to compromise motion based on this Howard here, that we allow parking on both sides of Water Street, but we exclude truck parking, large vehicle parking on both sides of Water Street. And we also create additional parking on borough property and Church Alley behind the shops on the north side of Water Street. And we also include with that a catch basin for properly draining water. We have water drainage problem there, so we don't build sidewalk. And we also use the landscaping that we're going to pay for one way or the other and spruce that up back there by having all of the flowering shrubs there are no other places to put them back here, creating border for the parking lot and actually making it visually more attractive and also functionally much more useful. We will realistically gain at least 8, if not 10 parking spaces back there.
Okay, that sounds like a good plan.
That's my motion.
Bill, before we ask for a second, the storm, which we know we need in the water runoff because of the elevation drop, where will that water go? Do we have a,
It will bring right down onto First Street,
okay, into that,
onto First Street.
on, and that water would then run into the lake on the park.
How much is this all going to cost?
It was possibly paid this part.
It will be part of the project.
So you're suggesting that with the project funds then to pay for that?
For the most part, the actual truth of the matter is we're going through the final count with the other changes. And I can't give you a precise figure, but it's, if not all, at least the majority will be paid for by grant funds.
Is that understood?
I just have one question for clarity, the large vehicle parking. How are you going to define that truck and large vehicle? I mean, can we say that if they fit the spot, they can park if you're outside the white line?
No, I think we're going to have to ask citizens to That is law enforcement.
I tell you why there are so many people driving trucks now.
Suburban.
So many people. So now, does that include big SUVs?
Well,
Does that include?
what we're hoping for, Mike,
Escalade?
what we're hoping for is public support. Hopefully, people will use common sense and not be there.
I wish his horse was back there.
Well, I understand that, but, you know.
I got a Ford F-150.
To
You
define.
mean I can't?
No, I don't think we're saying that. I think what John is suggesting, if it fits within the parking indicators.
Here, that we allow parking on both sides of Water Street, but we exclude truck parking, large vehicle parking on both sides of Water Street. And we also create additional parking, on borough property and Church Alley behind the shops on the north side of Water Street. And we also include with that a catch basin for properly draining water. We have a water drainage problem there, so it goes inside the home. And we also use the landscaping that we're going to pay for one way or the other, and spruce that up back there by having all of the final shrubs. There are no other places to put them back there, creating order for the parking lot, and actually making it visually more attractive and also functionally much more usable. We will realistically gain at least 8, if not 10 parking spaces back there.
Okay, that sounds like a good plan.
That's my motion.
Bill, before we ask for a second, the storm, which we know we need, in the water runoff.
I asked it, I'm saying, I've been getting told, well, we have bigger other problems at Evans Square. I don't know what to do, they're not answering, but, you know, there was an ambulance call there a few weeks ago, they could not get in. I do have a keys ordered for them.
I'm asking, is any of these solutions something the borough can affect? I mean, is there something we can do to help? Or is
And that's what I'm asking for, that's why I'm asking for
Yeah, I
that.
don't know that, that's why I have to ask.
Okay,
Is that
that's
something
the
that you
help.
have control over? Or is
Did
that
I talk to the custody? I don't know who the,
Let me try to speak to that.
Jeff, I'm sorry.
If you get your concerns as the fire department to me as the borough solicitor, I'll get them to Evans Square.
okay, I look forward to the
And
email.
I will ask them to get us a response promptly because it's a public safety issue.
Okay, that's more than I was answered.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, that made it simple. I just wasn't sure what we personally, as council, could do to help you get that information.
Well, I was asking for more than I've done so far.
Well, I know, but I just didn't know what to do.
Okay, and topic on the, just want to mention that we did have problems launching our boat there. And
The fireboat,
the large fireboat, and that was with the lake water up. And we just hope that the lake water is still up when we take it out this fall.
well, again, that's been asked and answered as well.
Yeah, I didn't know,
I doubt.
I'm not saying that they haven't had problems, but we did have.
Well, I appreciate that information, but again, as much as I'd like to have a different answer for you, I'm probably sure we're not going to change it now. I think we're going to live with it the way it is, unless it really becomes a super issue at some point in time. But, you know, what the guys say, it's cast in concrete, this one is.
Well, you know what, if it wasn't made correctly, why did we spend millions of dollars to do it? And
But John, you weren't here listening, Bill Eldridge and Mike and Billy and perhaps John are going to get down and look into that. We're going to find out. We can't answer it today, and we're not going to go down and pick it up and change it. I wish I could. I wish I could make it better instantly. I don't have that ability. These guys are going, I'm going to trust them to get down, and Billy, again, is an engineer. He knows how to run a scale, and we can find out.
Will those results be made public?
You know, I'm sorry?
Will those results?
Oh, of course. Okay, of course.
Well, they're in the minutes now because he's already measured.
Is there anything?
But I want to do that.
Yeah. But it's still,
He's down. Anything else, ladies and gentlemen? Jimmy?
Dilapidated ordinance or something, I'm like, what kind of?
We'll get back to you on that. What we need, excuse me, what we need to know, though, we need to find out, we're gonna have it looked at by our zoning folks. But what we have to find out is if their plans are to repair it or demolish it. That will make a difference as to what permits are needed. If they're tearing it down, Jeannie, they need one permit. if they're rebuilding, they need other permits, and that's what we need to
I guess
follow.
I was wondering, can he just put like a roof over it and then go get some mechanic?
Well, I mean, I don't know, I haven't seen. I would love to. Do you have a comment?
No, public comments.
Public comments, we've had public comments. Jeff, there you go. May I ask for a motion to adjourn?
Are there any other public comments?
She's
I
asking.
didn't see why you jumped up. May I ask for a motion to adjourn?
You got it.
All right, there's one motion on the floor. May I